Hey everyone, it's Henry with TRRV, and today I want to show you first what is a Giggy Box, and then second how to change your batteries on your fifth wheel or Montana High Country. Now let's get into it. Right here, this is our Giggy Box, and it's a Keystone exclusive feature. And what's awesome about the battery box is that one, you have your battery disconnect on here. Two, this Giggy Box protects all your electrical for your batteries running to your, or all the electrical running from the batteries to your unit. It protects all of those, all your wires. And what's also nice is that underneath this cover, it's clearly labeled what all these wires go to and what powers what. And they also left space for additional add-ons. So for example, if you got lithium-ion batteries installed in your coach, you'd have a couple extra spots to add additional wires that you'll need for those lithium-ion batteries. And what's also nice is that they also have those additional fuses inside there as well. So it just allows you to have more protection for your electrical going to your unit. And what's also really nice is that it protects it from any cargo debris or road debris, because not all the time, they're not always located inside of a compartment. For example, a Giggy Box on a travel trailer will look similar to this. It's more horizontal than it is vertical, but it's located on the outside of the trailer, and this Giggy Box also helps protect from road debris. So when you're going down the road and a rock gets thrown up, this protects all your electrical equipment as well. But this is your Giggy Box. It's awesome because it keeps everything super organized, and it's convenient, it's easy access, and it's a Keystone exclusive. All right, before we get into it, let's go over a few things that you're going to need. First, you're going to need your drill gun. Second, you're going to need a socket wrench. And then lastly, you're going to need your 11 16 inch socket, 11 16 inch, and a 9 16 inch socket. Now first, you're going to unscrew the battery box cover, and there's about 6 screws located along the edge of the top of this cover. And you're going to unscrew those, and then next you're going to take your 11 16 inch socket, and you're going to take off the nuts up top on top of the battery box cover, and undo all the wiring going to the battery box. Hit it. Okay, now that we've got all of our screws undone on the edge of our battery box, and then we also undone all the wires going to the top of the battery box cover, now we can remove the top cover. Joke's on me, I didn't take off a screw. Okay, now that we got that last screw off, now we can start taking this battery box cover off. But one thing I forgot to mention is that you're going to want to have a square head drill bit for your drill gun. Okay, now when we remove this battery box cover, underneath these, the positive and negative connection points, there are nuts holding wires in place connecting these connection points to your battery. So we're going to have to take those off before we remove the battery box cover. Now there's no really easy way to go about this. It's kind of hard to see, and it's it's hard to put your hands back there, but the best way to do it is by tilting up the cover of the battery box and being able just to kind of see well enough to be able to put your socket on that nut and take the nut off. Okay, to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about here, you see those 2 nuts with the connection point. Man, it's dirty underneath there. I'm gonna have to clean that. But you have those 2 connection points right there, and those nuts holding or connecting those batteries to those connection points. And we're gonna want to take those 2 nuts off and disconnect those wires before we can remove this battery box. Okay, now that we got those 2 wires disconnected from our connection points, what's nice is we can just take this battery box cover off and move it outside. Now, this gives us a little bit more room to operate in here, which is super convenient. And now our next step is to disconnect all these wires from our battery and then put new batteries in here. Awesome. So now that we got all of our connectors removed from the battery, now you're ready to change your batteries out. Awesome. So now that we got our new batteries in here, we're ready to put all of our connectors back on. And now it's really important you pay attention to this step, because you want your batteries to be set up in series, which means there'll be a 12-volt system, but you have two batteries operating off of 12 volts instead of in parallel, where you'd have two batteries acting as 24 volts. Now, first, one thing that's important is that we always label our connectors positive and negative so that we don't get confused which is going to which, and which side of the battery gets connected to the connecting points on the battery box itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my negative, put negative to, actually I want the smaller one. I'm going to want to do negative to negative. I'll come back and tighten these later. And I'm going to want to do positive to positive. Then the next thing you want to do is to make sure that it's set up in series correctly. You're going to have one battery have a connecting cable to your negative side, or one battery is going to have a connector on its negative, and then you're going to have the other battery, the opposite battery, connecting on its positive. And this allows your batteries to get set up in series instead of parallel, so you have two batteries acting in 12 volt instead of 24 volts. Okay, now that we got all of our connectors tightened down to our batteries, one thing I forgot to mention is that these nuts are 9 16ths, and then the nuts that go on the battery box are 11 16ths inch. And another thing I wanted to mention was that you want these nuts to be tight on to the battery, but one thing you don't want to use is like an impact gun or a drill gun to get these nuts on the battery, because you don't want to, one, strip anything or break these the actual bolts coming from the battery off. And that's because that's no good, because one, you'll need a new battery, or you'll have to fix it, and it just kind of causes more headaches. And now we can carry on and connect our negative and positive to our battery box cover. That way we can start feeding, or cover these batteries and feed electricity to our unit. Okay, hopefully this is a good enough angle for you guys. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my connection, or my positive to my positive, and my negative to my negative. And then I'm going to, the way I want this, the way I have two washers and my nut, and the way I want this to go on is I want it to go washer, split lock washer, and then nut. Okay, now that we got everything inside the battery box hooked up, now we can hook up everything outside of the battery box. So same deal, I'm gonna go positive, my red wires, positive, let me flip this upside down, that way it sits flat. Positive and positive, this is good to go. And same thing, I want washer, lock nut washer, washer, split lock washer, and lastly the nut on top of that. Okay, now that we got everything hooked up on the outside of the battery box, we are done. All that's left is screwing down this battery box cover, and then you're good to go. And that is how you change your batteries on your RV. Much for watching, guys. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. But that's how you change your batteries on your fifth wheel or Montana High Country, or if you just have two batteries going to your unit in general. And we also covered what a Giggy Box was and how it's an awesome Keystone exclusive.